Hello, and welcome to the Talking Stick Show. So I am joined again by my special co-host we have from Two Feathers Medicine, Laura Massey. Hello, Laura.
Hi, Dale. Hi, Amir. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me back on.
And thank you for coming on again. I think this is probably the 6th show we've come back on, so it's an absolute honor again to have you on, Laura.
Thank you.
And so today's special guest, we have Dr. Amir Jahangiri. Hello, brother. How are you doing?
It's an honor to be here with both of you. And ladies and gentlemen, my warmest greetings to you. I hope you're all doing amazingly well. I'm very honored to be here, and I look forward to a fantastic show. Hopefully we'll all enjoy ourselves and be able to, provide some good information for our esteemed audience.
We just had a little bit of some internet gremlins coming through then, and it kind of there we're back now. We're back. So
I take that as a very positive. Something amazing is about to happen. That's where all the interference comes in. So I take that as a thumbs up from the universe.
You were talking about that last time, weren't you, Laura, about the cyber warfare, was it?
Yes. Well, obviously that's Andrew's information, so I can't it, and you're going to have to wait till you have Andrew on, unless Amir can add any more to that. But yeah, apparently that's why all the internet is up the creek.
It's happening quite a bit, like a lot more than it has been before in the last few weeks, I've seen. But so Amir, if you would like, for those listeners who've not heard anything about you before, if you'd like to just say a quick synopsis about who you are and what you do. I love that question, who you are.
I'm Amir Jahangiri. I was born in Iran during the longest war of the 20th century. So from early childhood, I learned resilience and healing. Of course, healing begins with oneself. That's how you earn the right to heal that same pain in others. So I started off, I grew up in a very religious city. Of course, Iranians are Shia Muslim. And up to the age of 18, I was very devout, following all the rituals and practices. And of course, although Abrahamic religions aren't perfect, but in all forms of spirituality, there are elements of truth. So a lot of that stuff I still keep to this day, useful practices. And when I entered university, I discovered that unfortunately a lot of what was being preached was false, outright lies. Kind of put me off for a little bit, but deepened my journey into spirituality. That was my refuge. And over the years, I completed 7 academic degrees. Now I'm an academic. I'm teaching computer science, mathematics, computer science. But spirituality has always been the major part of my life. And there were lots of obstacles on the way. But then I look at these as more rites of passage. The more difficult the test is, the rewards are equally great. And so I think I mastered healing first on myself. And I reached a stage where I noticed I could do this for others in a spirit of compassion, of demonstrating the gentle side of human nature we all have, which you can see very powerfully in children. So the child within never died. And that was my saving grace. Of course, I practiced wholeheartedly many different modalities of spirituality, not just the Abrahamic religions, left-hand path and right-hand path. And I happily landed in the sacred neutral. So wherever needed, I can add a little of this and a little of that. To my experience, what modality is most powerful, I think that's an individual kind of a solution. For each of us, one would be more powerful. I think we owe this to ourselves to explore as much as we can without any expectation. Really dive into different practices wholeheartedly all the way. And you'd be surprised what emerges. On different healing modalities, in my humble opinion, they complement each other. And as you learn more, you kind of get to a place where you can meld these, like the recipe, like the ingredients in a beautiful recipe, come up with a new dish that is awesome. I think both of you can probably agree with me on this, that, you know, the more you know, the better you are.
That's
and
great.
The journey continues. Here I am with you, esteemed people, my beloved fellow panel members. So I hope we can create beautiful harmony today, you know, and give something useful to our wonderful audience.
Beautiful. And going back to that story, Amir, when you were talking about adding those extra ingredients, when you were younger, growing up with that kind of the religion aspects going on around you, what was that catalyst for you to be able to actually start seeing different things and going, right, I want to expand myself and move and look into different, say, pathways, so to say?
Well, that's a beautiful question. So first of all, the Iranian culture is very ancient, and it is the source of very beautiful spiritual paths, and namely the Sufi and the Darwish. And one of the best examples of the Sufi tradition is Maulana, also known as Rumi. Really, really beautiful. Talking about spiritual concepts in the most sublime way. And it corresponds with all human tradition, from whatever part of the world you have a look at it. So that was always in my mind, you know, the Sufi tradition. And also Iran is the home of the Zoroastrian tradition. And they go back tens of thousands of years, very ancient practice. Some even say they're the source of the Buddhist tradition. Mages of Persia moving around, migrating, taking wisdom with them. And of course, spirituality and magical practice has existed in that part of the world since people have lived there. And also, Iran is a mishmash of different cultures and religions. So it was all around me. I just had this thirst that could not be quenched. I just kept reading and learning about different stuff. So it's right there. You may have an image of what Iran is and what the culture is about, but there is that deep yearning for spirituality in the people. Then I moved to the United Kingdom, and that's where I could truly blossom. Although the modern Western civilization is very void of spirituality, but in that freedom of speech and expression, there has this environment that's been created is so conducive to growth. You won't get imprisoned for saying the wrong thing. You won't be discriminated against. So really the freedom that exists in the United Kingdom, I mean, I owe everything, what I am today, to this beautiful nation. Wonderful people. And of course, the United Kingdom has an ancient tradition of spirituality. The Druids and the Celtic traditions, all of these beautiful traditions, I found that they complement the Eastern culture really nicely. It is all the same beautiful song of praise to the Prime Creator, but in different languages.
And that is, it's funny you talking about that. So what was it like for you, Iran, and that period when you were in Iran? Because I know me and Laura have a complete different narrative, which they've been trying to show us through the media, through when we were growing up in Iran. So what was it like for you, just going into it from your own experience?
They're an incredibly ingenious and tough people with a long historical memory. Let's just say you don't want to be their enemy. They never forget. And throughout the ages, although for the past, let's say, 1,500 years, they've been continuously on the decline, but that ancient culture has sustained them. You see certain cultures like China, like Persia, like Greece, that historical memory is a powerful thing to draw upon in times of hardship. And again, you're looking at the recent 4 or 5 decades, 4 decades especially, there was a revolution and sanctions, crushing sanctions going on, a war going on. I don't know of any other nation that could have withstood this kind of pressure. So incredible people, even among the illiterate, they know lots of poetry by heart. And of course, they're really amazing at cheating, like no other. They find back doors that'll blow your mind. And so, you know, growing up in that kind of a culture is good. You know, you can survive anywhere on the earth. If you survive there, you're going to be A-okay.
And anything to add to that, Laura? Any questions about that?
Yeah, I just like Amir to give our lovely audience a flavour of some of the healing modalities, because I think you started quite early. So what are some of the healing modalities you were using for your own self-mastery journey?
I think before I knew about any formal modalities, I learned very early on what heals you, nourishes you, and sustains you is the heart. If you can keep loving, there is nothing that can break you. So that self-love is the ultimate medicine. And of course, when you're extending this healing to somebody else, you're demonstrating that unconditional love that's like a volcano. It cannot be diminished or cannot be snuffed out or killed in any way. So within any modality of healing, whatever that may be, that compassion and love towards yourself and your fellow human beings, that would be the key. So I learned that early on, self-love. The heart does break, but the flame never goes out. And it's self-generating, self-healing, like a jewel that may crack. You can melt it down and it just cools down into a brand new heart as if it's never broken. So having the ability to continuously raise your own vibration, that's the key, really. Then you learn how to keep your own vibration and gently lift others up. And then you become a healer. So the harder you learn how to, it's like they say, you fight the way you train. If you train hard, you can fight hard. So, of course, tougher situations, greater difficulty, you just become that much more competent in keeping that vibration high, keeping that love that lays at the foundation of all creation alive within you. Once you get that going, there's nothing that you can't do, nothing that you can't heal and improve.
And you speaking and saying these words, Amir, just... Sorry, go ahead, Laurie. Go ahead.
You realise that very young. When I was a very small child, I remember feeling, as you're saying, very happy as a child and not understanding why people couldn't just love each other. Yes. And as I got older, I would say to my parents, you know, if everybody was just kind to their neighbour, or kind to somebody down the street, if everybody was just kind, then the world would be all right, wouldn't it? And of course, yes. The older you get and the more damage your heart takes, the more that does get knocked out of you. which, as we all know, many people know, it causes you a great deal of pain.
Yes.
And part of the pain is the fact you cannot understand. You don't have that cognitive awareness that of the way it is, the way the world is set up. Of course you don't. And it's very confusing that anybody sees anything else as a basis other than love, which creates all sorts of problems. And I don't see that, most children start off like that,
Yes.
don't they? With a good heart.
Absolutely. That's absolutely correct. And then again, that we come into this incarnation with all we need. Like all other creatures in creation that we see, everything that we need is built in, including that unconditional love.
Yeah.
So again, through different traumatic events, brainwashing, through our parents, school, society, and so on, we start forgetting our true self. But that doesn't mean it still doesn't exist down there underneath all those layers of illusion, of distortion. Sometimes the love is just that strong that it cracks every layer of illusion as it's being laid upon the previous layers. So some of us can maintain that loving nature. And then, we're here as people that are aligned with the highest good of all. We're just here to show each other what's possible.
Yes.
So we show other people, hey, you don't have to suffer. You don't have to torture yourself. Just be blissful, be loving towards yourself and then towards others. So very much so what we're doing here is that, showing others what is possible. So growing up in a developing country, if anybody has had that experience, they would know that it's very difficult. Many luxuries that exist in the developed world don't exist there. The hardships that you see in your own family and of course in the general public is very awful. And we cannot be unaffected by the suffering of others. But I completely agree with what you just said, that there's no reason that we can't be that love, just doing correct by ourselves and by people around us. If we all did that, we'd have a much better world.
And it's interesting as well when you said about your story, Amir. What was it like for you? Because I feel like when you're talking about love, it kind of connects and corresponds with that faith, having that faith at all times. And with yourself, I can fully feel that faith connection. And what was it like? So when you were younger, did you have that faith? Was it kind of like, did it disappear then come back? Because a lot of people who say go into Church of England turn around to hating faith and turn around to having broken faith, but you've fixed yours or had it all along. What was it like for you? Because I had my faith, then it got broken from a lot of stuff. Then I had to heal that stuff to have that faith connection again, which made me accept love and be love, so to say.
So, the same as yourself, that faith gets damaged and injured, especially when you're dealing with institutionalized religion, where it becomes an instrument of power and it becomes part of the system of domination and control. It's not just a method of enlightenment, it's an instrument of power. And if we look at the history of the world in the past 1,000 years, we had all the struggles, the crusades and so on. And it's not just limited to wars between the Islamic faith and the Christian faith. This kind of struggle exists everywhere. The problem really comes when spirituality becomes a mechanism to political and economic strength. And then people who are honest, they look at what the word is and they see what is practiced. And that has broken the faith in many people, countless people. So the thing that's really important is to realize that the divine exists, that there is that spark of the divine within all of us, that no matter what lies are told by other people who are greedy, who have self-serving motives, nothing will diminish that spark of the divine that we all have. And once you notice that, the lies are washed away. You can see truthfully what is what. You can feel truthfully what's within you. And I think that mends all broken faith. Faith is not then given to the external. It is given to what is already within, which is that spark of the divine. And nobody can take that away from you.
Anything to add to that, Laura, about faith and your experiences with faith, broken faith?
I haven't personally experienced any sort of massive broken faith. I think I was very fortunate because I was able, as Amir was saying earlier, to always stay in touch with that flame within. Even through the very hard times, I somehow knew that my heart was my resource, and if things weren't great around me, when I went to bed as a child, I could go to my happy place. And happy place was my imagining a perfect family with lovely brothers and sisters and playing in a perfect garden and just things like that. But it was always love-based. It was always heart-sourced. And although, as I said earlier, yeah, that's taken a few beatings, of course. That flame has never been extinguished. And then when you meet people that really fan that flame, like Andrew, then that really brings it back into that burning fire, you know. So that's the excitement I find in this moment of now, is that I kept that flame going. And yes, everybody can, and it's there in everybody. I think I'm very fortunate that I always knew it was there. And then the synchronicity of meeting certain people on the path who have helped really get that fire going, that now is, for me, burning very brightly. And it's only going to get bigger because that's what it needs. That's what this world needs.
I think you're absolutely right. That flame may go down into a tiny, tiny, tiny little flame, but it's always there. One exception being somebody who intentionally tries to kill their own flame. So knowing that they're doing wrong and insisting on it, overstepping others' free will, and causing intentional harm to sentient kind. That being the exception. Everybody else who lives a normal life tries to improve themselves, tries to survive in the daily life. That flame, no matter how much trauma, how much terrible stuff you throw at it, it may go down for a little while, but it can never be killed by anything external. And I think that's something valuable we came across now for our esteemed audience. No matter how low you are, no matter how much the world has beaten you down, just know that flame within has the potential to burn all the garbage away. The more stuff the world throws at you, you have more fuel to burn. It's just a matter of perception.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you say that, because a lot of clients who come to see me with, say, sexual traumas or abuse, it seems it's when you said about being born, we basically come in with what we need. And that's so true, because say someone who's sexually abused or beaten up when they were younger, so they came in full faith, full love, then all of a sudden they got broken faith. But realistically, it's an aspect of them which needs healing, and the other part of them still has that love. Because I've got a close family member who's exactly like that, full faith, but there's an aspect from the abuse which keeps coming in and saying it's not real, and I lost my faith, then I can't face the world, so on and so forth. A good question for you, Amir, would be ancestral karma. How does this connect to everything? Because I think this is very important with the broken faith stuff and everything, with what's thrown at us when we were younger from our parents or the media, so on and so forth.
That's such a beautiful question. And not too long ago, David and I did a show on ancestry. So these are generational curses It's like a virus being transmitted from one generation to the next. So for the example of people who suffer abuse, you can be almost certain that your abuser has suffered the same. And the person who's done it to them has suffered the same. And so goes on this whole unbroken chain of the curse or family karma. And one must know that these are curses that are generated out of time, meaning once you break them, they're broken in all time, as if they never existed. And proportional to that, it is extremely difficult to do so. So people who manage to heal themselves from this, they should take pride in their achievement, because they're the first in their bloodline who's managed to do this where others have failed. Meaning that their children will no longer suffer this terrible curse. And the ancestors who have passed it along down the line, not being strong enough to break it, they can finally rest with that guilt and dishonor removed from them. So you're healing your ancestors also. It is one of those things that happens and it's not always voluntary. So the first person who gave in, maybe it wasn't completely out of choice. Maybe they were forced into it. A lot of, I'm sure you both have seen this, people with powerful practitioners, light workers, healers in their bloodline have some of the most terrible curses. And this was done intentionally to powerful bloodlines throughout the world, just to try and snuff the light of humanity. We're looking at ourselves as a whole, as a species. The best among us have suffered the most terrible torments throughout the ages. And yet now is the time, I spoke in high praise of the society in the United Kingdom. And this has been earned by difficulty. There were the Dark Ages, the Industrial Ages, and so on, 2 world wars. Now we're finally in a place that light workers are welcome, healers are welcome. We're not prosecuted anymore. This is the perfect time for these kinds of healings. So it's not easy, but it's absolutely possible. The greatest healer is love. Even though the heart may be broken and in our conscious mind we have memory of the trauma, it can all be healed. I know both of you are very competent, powerful shamans. You've healed many, many people. Soul shard retrieval, going back to that instant of the trauma with compassion and love. A beautiful soul shard. Come home. It is time for healing. And people need to mature to a certain degree to be able to do this and accept this, not just in the body and energy, but in their mind. But there's always a way forward, and it's a beautiful time to be alive.
Yes.
And I got a few shivers, and when you talked about the curse on the lineage with powerful beings, say the ancestral lineage, because when I was doing my reading with Andrew, I've got a family crest, Hollis crest, which I've been working on. There's a few financial negative curses coming down, which I had to kind of pinpoint in prayer and revoke and cancel. But it was funny because I had this conversation with Andrew, and I was saying, what are these crests about? And he goes, well, they've been placed on very high, powerful psychic surgeons in the lineage, exactly done on purpose to high beings in the lineage to kind of cut that down and basically fuck things up.
Absolutely right. And to the reverse of what has happened in the past, centuries ago, now is the time, now is payback time. Because the descendants of all those powerful healers, shamans, light workers, they're awakening with a vengeance. You see, those gifts have been earned. The rites of passage have been successfully gone through by a certain bloodline, like the flame within the heart in this ever-present now. You may be able to dim it for a moment, but it will never go out. And so are those gifts. People come into this incarnation saying, I don't know. From childhood, I could do this and this and this. And I say, no, my friend, you're just the next link in a long chain of powerful practitioners. Now is your time, not just to heal you, but heal the ancestors, future and past, and heal humanity. And I say again, this is such a beautiful time because the dark ages are over. The Kali Yuga is over. We're ready to emerge into a new golden age where all those beautiful gifts of healing are coming up again, more powerful than they ever have. Not just to heal mankind, but undo the damage we've done to nature, right? Maybe save some species. Some of them are gone, blessed be. But look at what we can do with the earth. There's so many powerful movements now. Some of them slightly misguided, but they come from a good place. And now is the time we can start healing the collective, probably getting rid of this domination and control.
Beautiful. Anything you want to add to that, Laura, about the curses and the ancestral karma side?
Just that I get extra joy from doing my great work, knowing that it's going to heal the lineage, knowing that it affects my future generations. Yeah, absolutely. It's almost what gets me up in the morning. And all my prayers always start with gratitude to the ancestors because of what they have done. And it usually brings me to tears. What they have been through, the sacrifices they have made to get us here now at this time of the Great Awakening and Great Remembering is so huge. You can barely sort of think about it. So I just know that when there's times I'm feeling a bit sluggish or, do I really need to do it? I thought, well, I might not feel I need to do it today, but everything I do, is multiplied for them and gives them what they need. And that is my contribution in service, not just to the light, but to my ancestors, past, present, and future. And for me, they're my main reason for being, because for them, that was their reason for being, to get us here now at this great time. And it's always repaid. That energy is always repaid to you when you put in the time and effort, always. And I even visit my DNA lineage ancestral villages all across the UK. And I fly home. I have a wonderful trip. I have wonderful synchronicities, and I'm sure I'm escorted home with wings, because I think it helps them. It gives them, I think I'm bringing them some resolution, maybe closing some open portals. You just feel like you're doing your great work, and you're always assisted. You just have to look for it. So for me, working with the ancestors is absolutely my greatest joy.
Especially when you come across an individual unrelated to you, and you can do this act of service for them, facilitate them healing their ancestors, removing curses from the bloodline.
Yes.
Funny enough, their ancestors become your buddies, right? You just keep adding to the ancestors. Talking about flying home, you'll be flying in first class, with champagne and an excellent movie while you kick back,
And it's funny you say that, because from listening to people's experiences, and one of the things in the psychic surgery training I do is opening portals to the ancestral home world and actually asking the psychic surgeons of their lineage to come forward and help. And people are so untrustworthy with it, because they're like, I don't want to ask the ancestors, because sometimes they're so engraved with stuff like angels or totally other different aspects of the unseen world that the ancestral lineage has kind of been pushed to the side a bit, I feel. And it was funny that, because me asking them, they were like, yeah, we love when you ask us to do this shit. Ask us to do what we absolutely love doing, this soul surgery or work. Just ask, and we love it. We really do.
And that's such a critical point. They can't overstep free will. They need to be invited in. But oh boy, when you invite them, do they come? They're just waiting, kind of just waiting for you to say, hey, please, a little help, until they just let loose.
Yes.
Absolutely right. And another critical point that you mentioned is the distortion in spirituality. All that stuff, whether it's asking for help from angels or demons, both equally wrong. The source of strength in every spiritual path is the self, the infinite self. And a lot of people go down the wrong path just because they're presented with wrong information. There's so much garbage out there, unfortunately. So you see, shows like this are perhaps among the greatest acts of service, because people are intelligent, they're smart, they're in tune with themselves. Wrong, that causes immense damage. So, you know, discussions like this, when we just, maybe we've saved countless people right now. We never know. But it's that the best type of empowerment is correct information, truthful information. We're living in a world of lies, where lies are presented as the truth and made up to look pretty and beautiful. People are brainwashing and hypnotism. Their suggestibility is raised to a certain level, to a certain height, where they can't think straight anymore. And so knowing the correct path is really needed. Clean information.
And for you, Amir, what would you recommend for anybody looking into kind of breaking curses and seeing if they can do that themselves? What are some of the skills and techniques you'd recommend for them to look into?
So the nature and variety of these kinds of lineage curses are very great. It could manifest in addictive behavior, alcohol, drugs, and so on. It could manifest in financial ruin. It could manifest in certain physical ailments, cancer, rheumatism, diabetes, you name it. A lot of this stuff, people have to first look at what's going on in their family. So identifying patterns that keep repeating themselves over and over. So looking at the duration of their life from a high, elevated point of view, recognizing these patterns. Once you understand that certain things are continuously being transmitted through the generations, then you've got your starting point. You identify what's going on. So it's not all that, oh, I'm weak, oh, I've messed up, all this and all that. No, maybe it's been forced upon you. Maybe it's part of the reason you're incarnated in this bloodline, to break the damn thing. So knowledge is power. So having the ability to critically evaluate these patterns in one's own life without judgment, without emotional charge. It's not good or bad, it's just information. You've got these patterns that are recurring, then you know what's going on. And then there are so many methods and modalities, countless. With the number of every human being on the planet, there's a modality of healing. We're all unique. But then knowing and calling for that answer, calling to divinity. I'm not even going to name it as this or that or the other. The divine, the great mystery, calling with an open heart, with genuine desire. That opens doors. That's my experience. There's no way around it. If you seek the truth, you will find it. So being critical and being genuine.
And I think this crosses over as well. I remember a question you wanted to ask Laura about narcissism. Was there a question you wanted to ask? I think we did have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
You wanted to ask Amir about narcissism, because this kind of corresponds to those patterns and behaviors. And I even see it in myself, aspects of my father, so aspects of narcissism within even my relationship. I'm having to work on all the time, and it's being responsible, but not putting too much blame and shame on yourself, and healing it bit by bit. And a lot of people kind of get stuck in that shame game, and they just give up on themselves because they're basically ran by everything else. And go ahead with the question, Laura, you wanted to ask about it.
Yeah. Children. Let's start with the children are put into survival. and even the parents with the best will in the world, unfortunately, are putting some of their children into survival tactics. And I'm not talking survival as in getting enough to eat or a roof over your head. I'm talking emotional survival. So I recognized, and again, it's like Amir is saying, recognizing the patterns. So I recognized the patterns I used as a child. I carried forward with my first husband, narcissism, that I was subject to as a child. Because that was, by mirroring what they did, it was trying to secure something that I wanted, because I was through the more open-hearted ways that I'd always wanted to, you know, to discuss something. I mean, be upfront, be honest, all the things that a narcissist can't actually do. So maybe like you, Dale, I just started to take on some of these traits. And it realized the reason I was doing that was because I was just using, yet again, survival techniques I'd learned as a child. So one, we've got the children learning already, you know, how they're learning some sort of manipulation, and bless them, you know, that's how they're trying to emotionally survive. And then we've got the collective unconscious narcissism that's carried forward, I'm guessing, from domination and control, and how we as a mass collective have tried to manage having the sort of, you know, being pushed down upon for thousands of years by a system that isn't at all coming from the heart space. Right. And on one level, we all know this.
So about that, some of these traits are stored in the subconscious mind. So they have a life of their own, and they act out in our daily life without us even having any quote unquote control. So therefore, correcting these requires a deeper level of healing. Now, what I would suggest is starting a spiritual practice that has the potential to correct those subconscious patterns. So essentially what's happening is an adjustment of the identity, the ego, that definition of who and what we are, how we operate, how we survive, how we derive satisfaction, how we defend ourselves, those patterns that happen in a split second unconsciously, but we do them every time. Now, something that is very, well, to be honest with you, I haven't come across any magical or spiritual practice that doesn't start with the ego death, that doesn't start with the shaman's death or a healing crisis or some sort of a storm that's risen in the reality. That's, again, these patterns that are maybe too high or too low. Low self-esteem, narcissism. No emotion, psychopathy, right? Too much emotion, being all over the place, right? These are just things that need to be brought to the sacred neutral, to a balanced, healthy point, so they're not draining our energy or driving us anymore. So starting some practice that is magical, spiritual, and being dedicated to it. There are certain things like Transcendental Meditation that work 100% of the time. There's no two ways about it. They're very healing. The thing about it is people don't have the patience to follow through. So a whole activation of these transcendental meditations takes tens of thousands of repetitions of the mantra. You learn the meaning of the mantra and then you forget it. It's sunk deep into your consciousness, reaching those subconscious aspects that I am everything, I am nothing, I am the light, I am the void. Isn't that the cure for narcissism or low self-esteem? So, but it takes that level of follow-through because these are so deeply ingrained in our psyche. It requires a lot of work. But if you do it, oh my God, it works. It works, it works.
Yeah, it does work. And in my experience, what I have done is called myself out on it every time I've recognized that pattern coming in and thought, that is not, you're not working from the heart. You know, you're working from reaction, from adrenals, from fight, flight, etc. And you don't need to. You're not in a survival situation anymore. So I like to catch these sort of programs as they come in, and I can almost, I do usually catch it now. I've done enough work now, so there's a degree of self-awareness that you're speaking about, Amir, which is very important. And you've got to want to. I mean, you've actually got to want to do this. And the more you get yourself, you call in your full I am presence, if you like, and make sure you're fully grounded and do all that work that we do. It's part of kicking out the programs. It's part of kicking out that conditioning. But you really have to do this, like, stop and check on your body. You know, you've got to, and on your mind and your reactions and what you're doing. You do have to call yourself out on it, and not just dismiss it and think, okay, why did I do that? I didn't actually need to do that. And that works. That really works.
And that's why the inner work is so important, and why my life changed dramatically. I'm not perfect in any ways. I've got my flaws. I've got my areas which I need to work on. I still work on. But it was that point of my life, say, a few years back, where I was like, right, I need to be noticing and noting everything within me. And say if there is, say, some program going on there, I'd note it, write it down. Then next week during my inner work, I'll go and do that, see that program. But then the next thing will layer over, then the next one, and it was about me understanding that there's so many things, and it's never ending process, this inner work thing. It's not going to be, you'll do one thing and that's it, I'm all clear. And that's how I lived, say, 8 years ago. I just thought I'd do it all once and that was it. But then the kind of like, it bit me in the ass. And so now it's kind of like, I know what, if there's anything with, say, my relationship with my wife, there'll be loads of different aspects of ancestral karma there from my father, of how he treated my mum. And I'd have to see that, understand that, forgive myself for it, but work on it. Then our relationship gets stronger and stronger together, because you're both working on kind of that unseen stuff. And a lot of couples and a lot of people kind of grow apart and they just fall out and they hate each other. But sometimes you can fix it. And through love, with my relationship for 8-9 years, it's made me realize that love can fix everything. And when you're dedicated for love, forgiveness, you can have that outcome. It's not all doom and gloom. And that's the one thing I had from my parents, which was great before my dad passed away last year, was my mum and dad were together all my life. I always saw them together, but my wife's mum and dad weren't. So she has a different perspective of things than I do. So I was learning from hers. So it's just a never ending learning, a school of learning, really, isn't it?
That's so true. And so our esteemed audience, I'd like to politely present this to you, that fixing these programs and harmful patterns is not a one-time thing that you just do one event or one magical ritual and it's all gone away. No. So the thing the three of us are wholeheartedly agreeing on is that it takes a lot of work, and it's not pleasant work. Often it is painful because you have to visit traumas from earlier in your life, maybe past lives even, when you get to that stage. It requires fortitude and valor and dedication. But oh my goodness, is it worth every iota of hardship? Because as you remove layer after layer, you become truer to yourself. You become that much more powerful. And I really mean powerful. You start seeing the effects of your power in manifestation, in how you're affecting the reality around you, as you step into greater sovereignty and strength that has always been there. You're just being blinded to it. It's covered from you. You're digging out your inheritance, your birthright. So it does require a lot of shoveling, years of shoveling. And along the way, you find little gems here and there, and finally you hit the big treasure chest where all the goodies are. And that's where you become really a master. And then you do past lives, and guess what? You reach a stage when you've dealt with all of it. And you can then help others on this noble pursuit. And that's what I meant when I was sort of introducing myself, that you have to go through these rites of passage. You must feel the pain that you're going to heal in others. Otherwise, you're not a worthy healer. So this is how mastery is achieved, no matter what the modality is. It takes a lot of hard work. It's not just a course. It's not a master's degree. It's not a doctorate that you do, and after a certain number of years, you're done. It's a lifelong thing. It's a way of life. If you look at it in that way, you're going to ease the journey.
It's your living prayer, isn't it? It's your living prayer. And one of the cornerstones, I think, there's several cornerstones. You can have more than 4.
Let's make it a circle, all corners.
Is staying sacred neutral. Because if you're in that non-judgmental place, then those programs can't come in because they are judgment. Yes. So the place, the heart-spaced awareness place of the sacred neutral, and that goes up with the others of claiming your sovereignty.
Yes.
I mean, you are as free as you allow yourself to perceive you are.
Yes.
If you're thinking you're not free, that's a choice you've made. And that doesn't mean you don't have to pay your taxes and all the other things like that. That's, I think, is a bit of, unfortunately, something that's been spread in the light worker community. I must give you this for free. I'm not going to charge you for doing this healing. It's a real misconception, and that isn't how it works. We all have to survive in the world.
Yes.
But we can survive it, and we can out-create all the rubbish out there.
Yes.
To create a life of joy. And people say, why are you so happy? You know, why do things work out for you? I do I'm not rolling in money. None of that matters. I do the work. Yes. I do the work. It's as simple as that. I've claimed my heart for me. No other being has any power over my heart. Yes. You know, and so once you've reached, you get to that, then it's not that everything else is easy. It's that you can really do it in joy.
Yes.
And it is a joy to do the work.
That's funny you say that, Laura, because lately, I think like a few times in the last few months, a few people have said to me about my prices and saying that they're a bit too high. And there's always that, I always just say, right, I've got children, I've got to pay my taxes, I pay a ridiculous amount of rent, I play this and that. If I charged at a low price, all I would do was bring myself into karmic retribution. And let's expand on that, Amir and Laura, about valuing yourself, because that was a big leap for me when I did that. And a lot of people are kind of like, they look at me and like, why are you charging so much? I'm like, I have to, and this is how it should be. People should be valuing themselves.
Yes, absolutely. So one thing from what Laura just said, among what you just said, you just gave everybody the golden compass. And that is being in the sacred neutral, and that the heart always resonates true. Nobody can touch your heart. Now, how to know if something is a program or not? If it is not loving, it is not true. If it is loving, it is true. So anything that is not loving in your head, that's a program. Any action you do that is not coming from a place of love, that's a program or a curse or something that doesn't serve you. So that was a really great point that you brought up. Now with the matter of finances, again, we're living in a society. We're not isolated. We're not living on our own in the middle of a desert. So society has its rules. If you exist in society, you have to generate wealth. That's part of the rules, right? And then comes evaluation. Well, there's somebody who has dedicated their life to the path of enlightenment, first for themselves and then for everyone else. Do they deserve to live comfortably? I'm not saying filthy rich. I mean that they have access to food, shelter, they can give education to their children, healthcare, that kind of stuff. So that amounts to a certain number. How many clients can you do without damaging yourself and burning yourself out? Certain number. Divide the money you need by that number, and that's the fee. Quite simple as that. It's really a no-brainer. Yet it is something that plagues a lot of light workers and healers. Oh no, it has to be for free and this and that.
Yeah.
Of course, you're not overcharging. You're charging equally.
Yeah.
It's equal exchange.
Yeah.
And therefore it is really free. What you're doing for that client will take years off their journey. They might be in such a state, such a low state that they really need that assistance. And from that point onward, they've got it themselves. So there is absolutely value in what healers do, what therapists do, and so that equal exchange. It is what it is. It's like being ashamed of breathing. Oh, I don't want to breathe. That's not right.
Well, that's martyring,
that's
isn't it? That's the martyring.
Yes, yeah, there we go. I don't want to use the oxygen. The planet needs the oxygen. Yet that can't work, can it? What about the carbon footprint? Oh, come on.
Yeah.
So for you, going back to your journey, Amir, for you, when you learn, say, the energy healing and everything like that, what was the process like for you, and learning that sacred neutral through that? What kind of was the point where you realized, right, neutrality is the way I need to process things, move forward with things? What was it like for you as an energy healer? Because I know did you study Reiki at one point, and you did quite a few different things. If you want to go into a little bit about your energy healing and what that was like for you.
So I think, like many other of our esteemed audience, I was born with a certain number of active gifts. Later on, I learned these are things that as a soul I have earned lifetime after lifetime. It gets to a point where you're born with these things. So I always had a certain number of things I could change or transmute the energy of a crowd. No matter how terrible they feel, I could immediately flip the whole thing on its head and everybody's feeling wonderful, which is part of the reason I'm such a good teacher, especially with a terrible subject like math. Kids come in, they say, "Oh my God, poof, I'm doomed." And 35 minutes later, everybody's humming and doing their math homework and loving it. So that transmutation of energy has always been with me. Formally knowing that, oh my goodness, there's a whole age-old tradition that is called this and this. When I was very young, 4 or 5, I'd get glimpses of myself in the future, doing certain movements and practices, not knowing what the hell it's called. Oh my God, this stuff is so cool. I wonder what it is, but I don't know. I know I'm going to master this in some point in the future, right? It's just different with all of us. But then along the journey, you come across the modalities and you know, oh, hell yes, this is what I was waiting for. And guess what? That's the same for all of us. We know there's some yummy gifts as we go along the journey. A beautiful fruit tree, a wonderful lake of clear, delicious water, whatever you like, a candy cane tree, whatever. Use your imagination. These come along. I think the thing you have to really keep up is that excitement for life. You got to enjoy every single moment. Be honest with yourself. Be nice to yourself. A lot of people are their own worst enemies. They torture themselves continuously. That's not good. Just be gracious, be kind, be a decent human being, and never give up. All that is meant for you is coming your way.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I think, is there any AI connection with you and working on that connection? Because I remember Matty was saying he was going to ask you in about the AIs and everything. What was your experience with that then, Amir?
Well, artificial intelligence, as we're using it now on the cutting edge of our technology, it's really a fancy way of calling the process of optimization, meaning that you write a program that tries every possible variation until one of them works better than the others, and that's called the optimal solution. And that's what our AIs are, meaning that they are narrow artificial intelligence. They're extremely good at only one thing. So all that stuff you see in sci-fi, that we got these Terminators taking everybody out, maybe it can use the program to aim a weapon extremely good, but then it's going to be terrible in something else. We're not quite there yet. So humanity is safe, right? We'll invent fantastic vacuum cleaners that will clean the shit out of every surface, right? But as far as AI taking over mankind, I don't think so. We're just such badass creatures. We're gonna, use them for spare parts. It's never gonna happen.
Have you seen that film? Is it iRobot? That was the one what kind of got me thinking.
Yeah. The robots get a nasty attitude. Oh hell no. That's just it's pretty story writing. The whole thing, Isaac Asimov and the three laws of robotics. It's somebody who knows nothing about AI and knows nothing about spirituality, but sells novels. That's pretty good. They're good at what they do.
And so going deeper into the AI then, was there any time have you worked on Pacific AIs? Was there a point where you were creating them?
Yes.
What was your connection with them through that?
Connection, cutting edge, really. But the thing that really turned me off was what it's been used for, which is mainly helping fat cats getting fatter and helping companies sell shit to people. Sorry for my French, but that's the way I see it. I was thinking, oh my goodness, I'm spending decades of my life in some dark lab writing code every day, 18 hours a day, just to help this major corporation sell more of their useless products to people. And that was deeply discouraging. At the end of the day, that's what it is. That's where the money is. That's the good case scenario. Worst case scenario, they're trying to use it to make better weapons so we can kill each other more efficiently. That's not very nice either. Unfortunately, most of the cutting edge is done already and done by the military. So what trickles down into academia is second, third-hand stuff. And now is the stage they want to adapt it for corporations to make some money. And that's really the story of almost every technological breakthrough that we have. It's all done in the army because they're the ones with the money, of course. And they got lots of toys and they got lots of very clever people working for them. A lot of the stuff never works out, thank God, because first time round is never perfect. And then by the time they try to perfect it, something new and flashier has come along. So then it trickles down into, the rest of society. That's part of the thing that really has to change. The amount of resources that is wasted on this kind of junk is mind-boggling. Well, really, 1% of that money would solve world hunger. It would pay everybody's mortgage 10 times over. I'm being really honest with you here. So we're living in a society that is painfully backwards. There's no shortage, full stop, in anything. There's enough food, there's enough drinking water, there's enough resources to put a roof over every human being's head. But look, there's no money in education, there's no money in healthcare, unless it becomes tyrannical. And I think, what we're talking about, people hear this. Slowly but surely, we're going to leave these dark ages, the way of the old, emerge into a better species with each other's help. But yeah, academia, technology, you may think that all these people are holier than thou, but unfortunately, that's not the case. They're just as bad as everybody else.
And as it reminds me of Facebook, I was building up my business page, and so basically you build up your business page and you do pay to promote that, you put money in to do that, then all of a sudden you've got all these people looking at it, but they filter it so they only have a certain amount of people seeing your stuff, and then you have to pay even more money for them to see it. So
Exactly.
you see all of this technology. It's kind of like you can work positively in it and actually get around it, but again, it just comes down to money, doesn't it? And being part of that and feeding the beast, really. Yeah,
Yes.
at times you have to do that.
David Ellis is really good at finding ways around a lot of that marketing, Dale. He's the chap to speak to on that, because with UCM, of course, he's set up his own media.
Yes.
To outcreate. And can I just bring up another point on AIs, because also we could use them for good. So they could be used like automation to do dangerous jobs, to save people doing some of the jobs that are on, you know, more dangerous.
Yes. Once we're done figuring out how to kill each other, then all the good stuff comes. So we got to be patient.
Yes, we have.
Do you remember that story? It was on, I think it was on Galactic History 2. I was listening to it, and that time where Andrew was, he was basically, an AI came into the conversation and was listening in because they said a key word. And he found where the AI was, and it was next to a volcano. And he was basically
the fat finger incident.
Yes, that was it.
The fat finger,
and he made the AI complete like, what the fuck's going
on? Yes, that's interesting. And so some of that technology is very ancient. Some of it is not sourced in our current civilization. Here and now. Let's just leave it at that. And so again, what really reaches the academic world and the world of us common people is a very small fraction. All the juicy stuff is kept for the powers that be.
Yeah.
And talking about David Ellis, I'd like to give you a shout out, David. Hello, my great friend. And also, you see, up here I've got the badge of UCM. So there's so many resources David has put together, courses and tests and software, and so you can download the UCM app to your phone and you can see the live broadcast directly. So it's in bypassing YouTube, bypassing Facebook. A lot of amazing work done by this extraordinary man. And so power to you, my friend.
Yes.
And how did you and David meet then, Amir? How did you connect with you
through
two?
Andrew Barnes?
Okay, yeah.
So I was talking to Andrew, and he said, "Hey, you gotta meet this guy." And okay, let's do this. And he connects us together. First conversation goes on for about 5 hours, talking about all different stuff and enjoying each other's conversation. And I had no idea who this gentleman is. Now I know better. Oh my God! Wow, I was cheeky, but again, I think that's what endeared me to him. So honesty and that zest for life, and you can see these in the programs we make with each other. We don't hold back. Yeah, we take the Mickey out of everyone and everything. So thank you, Andrew Barnes.
Now's the time the teacher of teachers are coming in, aren't they?
Yes.
They're coming in and getting together, finding each other.
Absolutely.
In the stadium of the peacemakers and peacekeepers.
Absolutely. What a beautiful thing you just said. Absolutely right. Together we are strong. Because the domination and control, that system, they work in great numbers against us one at a time. Together we can
conquer.
Yes.
But they won't conquer, because they can't conquer your heart ultimately.
Well, let's just put it this way. They've had all these millennia, and time is up. And guess what? Here we are.
Yes.
They've lost.
Yes.
If we're here now in this state, after all that's been done to us and our ancestors, well, guess who's won?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, absolutely.
The school of hard knocks.
Yeah.
They seem to like being in it.
Yeah.
Well, they don't know how to get out. They're all in.
They don't.
And there's that, it reminded me then of that feeling I had when I was younger, where it was like, it's kind of like a zealot light worker feeling, where you feel like you want to go home and all of stuff like that, but all I was wanting to do was figure myself out and actually enjoy myself and enjoy this experience instead of buggering off. And you get a lot of people feeling that, don't you? I just want to get out of here. But the aim of the game, so to say, is to service to self-ascension, where self-mastery, self-healing, self-care, and actually enjoying this world, because you can. There's some great things to do, and even though we have to pay the bills, pay taxes, deal with the system of domination control, still we can outcreate it and have fun and create these bubbles of reality where we can kind of all come together in a way.
Yes.
But still, it's all about the self-service, as Andrew talks about. Instead of all thinking it's going to be a big collective, we're all going to awaken at the same time. It's everyone at their own pace.
Yeah, I remember being a little bit disappointed in my very early light worker days when I was reading and believing that we were going to sort of be sat next to somebody and we would turn into crystalline and just swirl up and disappear, and we would ascend and that would be done. And I was thinking, but I've only just started. I want to do this. I want to do the work. This is so exciting. I found the whole thing very, very exciting and something I really wanted to get down and do. And I was extremely disappointed. You know, I thought, well, I've just started and you're taking all these rites of passage away from me. And of course, they weren't at all. That was part of my rites of passage to learn that.
Yeah, the removal of delusion.
Yes.
That's probably one of the things that hits really hard.
Yes.
But you know, we can probably all agree that there's never a dull moment, that it's so beautiful and exciting and rewarding. It's not all tough work. Every stage that you master, the rewards are mind-blowing. So beautiful, tears come to your eyes. You're overwhelmed with joy and gratitude. So there's rewards in this path. And then again, something that Dale mentioned, that now really we're coming together. So shows like this, when we express ourselves honestly, we're removing a lot of that illusion for many people. And that's really valuable. Probably we can help them avoid the sledgehammer hitting them too hard in the wrong place, you know, and that's really wonderful.
Home Alone, coming down the stairs. That's a good picture of life there. It's just walking up the stairs and all of a sudden a fucking sledgehammer just comes and it's then you'll get a few paint things coming down.
Yes.
So what a great way to wrap up the show. And next on Monday we have the great galactic historian Andrew Bartis, and I'll have Dr. Amir and Laura Massey and Matty as well co-hosting the show. So continuing on Monday, and it's been an absolute honor, Dr. Amir. I really has. It's been fun.
Honor is mine, absolutely. Both of you are wonderful. Your energy is awesome, right? And yes, light knows light. And I want to extend the warmest blessings to our esteemed audience. Wonderful things are ahead. Love yourself, that's the key. And then extend that love once your cup overflows. Never compromise yourself, number one. But love your neighbor, love your fellow human being. We're in this together. Don't be left behind. Join the cool kids.
And thank you again, Laura, as well, for co-hosting. It really is an honor. And thank you.
Thank you both of you. I've absolutely loved it. And I'd just say to the lovely audience, if things do seem a bit dark and a bit tough and a bit difficult, go to your heart and also set up a sort of a daily practice. Go and talk to your ancestors. Have a prayer situation so that they can hear you, so that you can co-create with them. You're not alone. Call on them to help you. And they do. It is a co-creation we're in with our good, true and beautiful ancestors in the unseen world. So don't forget they're there. if you could see them, you'd be amazed. So thank you, both of you. I've had a great time.
Me too.
And
Thank you.
we'll continue on the journey when we're joined
Indeed.
by Andrew
Yes.
on Monday. I look forward to it. Thank you again, everyone, for
Very
watching.
much.
Aho. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.